How can you tell that an amateur is operating?
Well, if you notice it. I look at any shot or any movie like a piece of music. Beginnings, middles, ends, fast parts, slow parts, loud parts, soft parts. It flows. And with a Steadicam, the image can flow. Have you ever seen that where they take a chicken and they mount a camera?
Yeah, I've seen that, the chicken head gimbal. Yo, what's going on, guys? Ted here for Indie Mogul, and this week I want to talk a little bit about the music of movement in filmmaking. Now, this is something I got the chance to learn a little bit about while talking to Dan Kneece, one of the first ever Steadicam operators of all time. We are talking about a filmmaker that's collaborated with both Quentin Tarantino and David Lynch. We're talking about the guy that shot this scene from Scream, from a guy that has studied and practiced emotion in filmmaking. What are just a couple of things that we can learn? In addition to that, we also sat down and actually watched a couple of the most iconic Steadicam shots of all time and talk about part of what makes each of these shots so iconic and so good. If you like this episode, remember you can listen to the full conversation with Dan online, along with more in-depth information about everything that we talk about here. Here we go, everybody. A couple of things that we learned from talking with Dan Kneece, talented cinematographer and an absolute master of movement. I want to talk a little bit about how you got into film, where you got your start from.
December 17th, 1982, Garrett Brown taught me how to do the Steadicam. Garrett Brown is the inventor of the Steadicam. He's the inventor of the Skycam. He's the inventor of all the cameras that you see in the Olympics, the ones that go down with the divers and go under the water. He invented those. He invented the ones that go along underneath the water and shoot up at the swimmers as they're swimming in the lanes.
Wait, are you talking underwater housing? I had no idea that Garrett Brown did that also.
Yeah, and the cameras that go along with the runners on the side of the track.
You're talking about like the fly cams and like sports and stuff like that, the ones that fly over.
Yeah, he started inventing it about in the early 70s, like 74.
Yeah.
76, it won an Academy Award. I learned in 82. And we were all sitting in the class going nuts over this thing. The most telling thing was Garrett just picked it up and put it on, let it swing out on the arm, and the camera just hung there in midair, and it was like friggin' voodoo.
And just like let go of it.
Yeah, let go of it, and it was just stayed there. And the Steadicam at first didn't have a monitor on it. It was like it had an arm that sort of looked like an art lamp arm. It had a vest. Had a 2C that was permanently built onto it, and then the viewfinder was a big long fiber optic that you kind of strapped onto your face, and you look sort of like a cyborg. There's some great films. There's one by Eric Rowland is about the early days of Garrett's Steadicam work.
Yeah, still gets used today.
Oh, a lot.
All the time.
All the time. It's still the most precise way to move a body-mounted camera.
Yeah. What is the key difference today between a Steadicam and a gimbal?
The Steadicam's more precise. The Steadicam can take a lot more G-force. The Steadicam has a lot more versatility in what kind of camera you can put on it, what kind of accessories you can put on it. I have a Ronin-S, which is a nice little small gimbal.
Yeah.
They're very nice. They have electronic gyroscopes in there that know where the motor is. And once you set it up and turn it on, it'll level itself out. But you can only fit so much stuff in there, and cables start sticking off the back, and every cable will start to pull on those motors. You have to be able to fit everything inside of that cradle with enough room to back it up far enough to offset whatever lens you put on there. With the Steadicam, you don't have that problem because the pendulum is mounted through a mechanical gimbal.
Yeah. And
then on top of the post, there's a platform, and you can put things wherever you want. There's less to go wrong in the stabilization part of a Steadicam because of the mechanics. That said, when I went to Cuba in May a year ago, I took a Ronin-S because I don't want to draw a lot of attention to myself, and you could just go running down the sidewalk. The big detriment of gimbals is they want to stay where they are. So when you go to do a pan, you've got to kind of start the pan slow and let the gimbal catch up. When you want to stop, you got to kind of stop a little bit before you want to stop so the gimbal can slow down and land on the frame that you want. Once you know that, then you can make adjustments for that, where with a Steadicam, I could just throw it around.
How can you tell that an amateur is operating?
Well, if you notice it.
If you notice it, period.
Yeah, if you notice the shot, that it's from a Steadicam. And this is good for any camera operator. If the audience sees what we're doing, we've failed. It all comes down to the script and the vision of the director. To me, the script is like the foundation of a house. If you got a good script, your house is going to stand up. If you got a rotten script, your house is going to fall down. Yeah. And so you got to keep coming back to that script because it tells you everything you need to know about what that movie is going to be. Oh, this is the Goodfellas shot with Ray Liotta and Lorraine Bracco going into the nightclub. I think it's a really great Steadicam shot. That's Larry McConkie, in my mind, one of the greatest Steadicam operators ever lived, if not the greatest. Nothing that draws attention to the way they're doing it. The camera just flows in with them. It's about as perfect a Steadicam shot as you can get. You're not drawn out of the movie, you're drawn into it because of the shot. Notice how small the spaces are he's going through here and all the extras that are going through.
So this is a hard thing to do as a Steadicam operator.
It's very difficult.
To go between this many people and not bump them and not bump the camera, right?
Absolutely, because sometimes you got the Steadicam beside you. You always want to keep it as close as you can because the further out you go in that arm, it becomes a geometrical progression of weight.
And it's so planned. That landing planned perfectly.
Absolutely. It's pretty amazing.
I think there's a lot of amateur directors out there that are like, oh, let's just make it a one take. We got to save time.
Well, that can be foolish. Yeah, this is me shooting Drew Barrymore on Scream. This was a really fun shoot. Drew is a lovely person, and she did a great job in this.
Did you know that this scene would be really iconic when you shot it?
No, you never know. You got to treat every movie you do like it's the Oscar winner, because you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you get a prince, So.
Here's that Dutch that you were talking about.
Yeah, there's a few of them in here.
So when things get weird in the shot, you go Dutch a little bit.
I mean, I wasn't told to do this. I just kind of did it. And she's walking around. We're bringing her in.
How carefully planned was the blocking on all of this?
Where the camera went was kind of up to me.
So you just were able to walk into the scene and sort of see...
Well, that's the way I always did it. I'd walk in and watch the scene, and I knew where the camera needed to be. The way that we've always done films from the beginning with me is that the director and I'd watch the rehearsal. We'd see how the actors played in the set. Then when we do that, we knew where the camera needed to be, because we knew where the points were in the scene, where the actor's going to play, where the furniture was, all these things is where we needed to be.
And where to be out of way.
Yeah, now a lot of people come in and they want to do shot list. Before they've ever seen the set, before they've ever seen the actor's work, they say, here's the script, do a shot list. Okay, scene, wide shot, 2 overs, 2 singles, there's your shot list. It makes no sense because it's busy work.
It's also putting the shots before the actor.
Yeah. It's the cart before the horse. I mean, if you're doing a very specific sequence, like where effects need to happen or where you need exact proper things to do, you board it out or you do a shot list. But otherwise, it all comes down to where the actors are going to be on that day, in that set, with whatever set dressing is in there and their particular performances. And then you know where the camera needs to be. If it helps the director get their mind in the order of what they need to do, I'm all for it. I'll look at it and I'll say, okay, these 3 shots can become 1 shot. This shot can here, that shot can be there, and you can get out of here in 4 or 5 shots instead of 15. 1 shot will flow into another shot, into another shot, into another shot. You can make your day. You don't have to spend your day lighting 15 shots, and you can move on to the next scene, and you have a chance of actually finishing the movie. That's how you tell a story.
Why, thank you, Dan.
Sure, you're welcome.
Good to know.
Oh, La La Land. Yeah, this is nice work. Yeah, Ari's doing a nice job here, Ari Robbins. This is all got some really cool stuff.
What are you noticing in the
nice whip pan?
Camera moves. Nice whip, which is something you can't do with a gimbal.
No, the gimbal would bottom out. It's nice smooth moves. The horizon's really good.
Yeah, by horizons you mean the level of the
what the level of the camera is.
Making sure you aren't accidentally giving a Dutch.
Yeah, you're not giving a Dutch here. The great thing about a Steadicam is the camera can move in a way that it can't move any other way. I look at any shot or any movie like a piece of music. Beginnings, middles, ends, fast parts, slow parts, loud parts, soft parts. It flows. And with a Steadicam, the image can flow. The image can move. You can actually observe a scene, or you can become part of the scene and a participant. This is a thing where the gimbals will really kind of fall apart, is if you can move certain ways in gimbals and get different heights of shots with gimbals that you can't get with a Steadicam. But the actual flow, the musicality of it, the crescendos that you can get with a Steadicam, the dance that you do with it is much different than a gimbal. You flow, you're musically a part of the thing.
You're moving like a person does.
Like a person does. You have all these techniques, but you have to be careful with them, because if you move the camera all the time, then when you move it, it doesn't mean anything. But if you wait and move it when it absolutely needs to move, then it's like a punctuation, or it has a meaning, or that tells the audience that something's going to happen. Because some movies, they move the camera all the time. It just moves, moves, moves. But then what means something in that movie is when the camera stops. The director and the cameraman are telling you, you should pay attention to this.
Steadicam right now, do you think it's a stepping stone, or do you think it's always going to be here?
There's some interesting developments that people keep having these great ideas, and they incorporate them in the device. And
yeah, I think I saw that Steadicam's putting gimbals onto the actual Steadicam,
You can use the gimbal like just another addition to the Steadicam. So if you have something that's like a super rough terrain or something, the gimbal will still try to keep the horizon.
And you still have that arm for
and
that
you still have the
position.
arm so it takes the steps out. That's like the best of both worlds in a way. There's a lot of things that keep changing. I always thought that eventually they're just going to put a connector in the back of her neck and just suck the pictures right out of her head. And the best cameramen will be the ones with the best eyes. Equipment will get smaller and lighter. Eventually you'll have like an Apple Watch with a built-in gimbal. Not only will Dick Tracy be able to talk into his watch like we can do now, but you'll be able to film 4K out of your watch.
It'll be stable as you walk forward.
As you walk along,
Yeah.
It'll be like microscopic things.
But what percent of the kind of like Hollywood movie stabilized like walk and talk shots are still Steadicam?
Probably the majority of them.
I'd say the majority, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird, right? Because we have gimbals and technology is good, but
well, people want good lenses. People want good cameras. People want anamorphics. They want widescreen. They want things. They want to mount a light on the camera. They want a device like a Steadicam to do that. I think it'll be refined.
That'll just be refined over time.
I think it'll be refined over time until the point where they start sucking the pictures out of your head or mount the camera on a chicken. Like I saw some people. Have you ever seen that where they take a chicken and they mount a camera on a chicken?
Yeah, I've seen that. The chicken head gimbal.
Yeah,
That's a fantastic Steadicam. Definitely want to see that.
Well, I mean, you look at the footage; it's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but then the chicken's going to go union,
There you have it, a key couple takeaways that we learned from our discussion with Dan Kneece. If you're interested in checking out the full discussion with Dan, again, you can hear it over on the Indie Mogul podcast, where you can also hear about what Dan is up to and working on these days. That's it for me, guys. I'm Ted. This is Indie Mogul. Hope you guys have an absolutely amazing day, and of course, catch you guys in the next one.
Well, it's interesting now because as a DP, I work with other Steadicam operators, and for some reason they're nervous to do Steadicam for me. I don't really know why.